This is the ABX Hatman here. It's going to show you some of the upgrades I did. You know, in the off season, I do a lot of thinking about what I can do to my kayak to make it better for me. So I did a little upgrade on the bungees, and did a little bit more with the rudder lift system because I wasn't exactly happy with what I had. But what I did on the bungees is I replaced all the bungees with this bungee here. This is a bungee you can find on Amazon. It's the company that makes it is, I believe it's called SGT or something like that. And you can get like 100 foot of 3/16 inch bungee for, I want to say $22 and some change. And they make it in various sizes. The reason I went with 3/16 is because that's what was originally on the kayak. So I decided to go with the same size. I could have went a little bigger or a little smaller, but I decided to stay with the 3/16 on most of it. And pretty easy to replace all the bungees. I'm trying to go with this like lime green theme for the kayak, just to give it a little bit of color, because it is just gray or different shades of gray. And replaced most everything. I didn't replace these because I don't even ever use them, so I just left them the way they were. This is my trolley line, of course, for the anchor. Here's where I put some of the bungee, right here. I replaced the black bungee that they sent with it, and then I also put these handles on. Now what these handles are is allows me to grab the rudder lift system and, you know, move it more easily, more freely, to deploy or, you know, take it back in. The reason I did the handles is because this, what they give you, I mean, it's very difficult to grab onto these little black things here, and especially when your hands are wet and everything, it becomes a bit of a chore to try and grab it and lift it up. Plus, not to mention the way that the lines run, it's just difficult in and of itself to do that. So I decided to put some handles on there, and this was the only handles I could find that would work for the application I was using them for. They're a little heavy. I'd say they're about 3 or 4 ounces a piece, and they are stainless steel, even though there is a little bit of rust there. I think they're stainless steel coated, maybe, I'm not sure. But at any rate, they work out really well. It's a lot easier than just grabbing this little thing here. I wish that Wilderness Systems would have came out with a T-shaped design like this, with like a hole on one side and a hole on the other that you could just tie a knot on the back side of. And, you know, kind of like if you think about like lawnmowers, weed eaters and stuff like that, the pull cords that they have for those, they're made out of plastic mostly. Something like that that's a little bit more miniaturized, not quite as big as one of those, that had holes on both sides to where you could, you know, run the lines the same way. That would be a better thing. I got these on Amazon. They're typically made for cabinets. They have a little metal spike on the back side, so when you drill these holes out of these pieces here, you got to make sure that it's just barely enough for the screw to go through, because you want it to be a tight fit. You don't want to have any kind of play whatsoever with this. And so what I did is I drilled a hole directly through the center, same size as the screw, and then put the screw through, and then made it line up with the handle, drove the handle down, you know, screwed the screw until the handle hit and bottomed out, and then the little metal spike that's on the handle itself drives in, and I made sure it was, you know, pretty much in line with the direction that the cord's going to be pulled in, because I don't want these two, you know, interfering with each other as I'm pulling them back and forth. Because if I turn them the other way, you know, they'd interfere and hit my knuckles and all kinds of stuff. So make sure the orientation is right before that spike drives into that plastic. I think the spike's about maybe 1/16 of an inch long, but it keeps it from spinning. So worked out pretty good. And this is that SGT bungee that I got on Amazon. So I replaced that, the old black bungee, with this stuff. This is marine grade bungee. I'm not sure how that really affects anything, other than maybe being a little bit more UV light resistant or something like that, but they market it as a marine grade bungee. So I don't know, figured I'd go with it, see if it was, you know, any different than what I've been currently using. This cord here, this is the important cord. It's very smooth, and it's called Dyneema. Dyneema is, I also got this cord on Amazon, and this is 16th inch Dyneema. So it's very smooth and it's very strong. Kevlar is 7 times stronger than steel. This is 15. Not that I really need it for this application, but it was the only smooth cord I could actually find in a lime green color that I felt would do the job pretty well, because this stuff needs to slip past the kayak as I'm pulling it back and forth very easily. Now, the only problem I had was on the back side where I tied this in. I tried putting 2 or 3 knots in there, and it still wanted to pull through the hole when I applied any pressure. So what I did is I took a washer and tied the washer onto the line, and then tied the knots behind the washer, so it actually has to pull the washer through the hole in order to pull the line through the hole. So now it stays pretty much in place. And this stuff, this Dyneema stuff, is pretty good. It's pretty good stuff. It's nice and smooth, very strong. No issues with it, to the best of what I've been using it for. I haven't had any issues with it. Coming back, you know, the pad eyes and all that stuff, this is all stuff that was in the other video. Make sure the lines are wrapped around in a certain way so that they, when you're pulling on the line back and forth, they don't want to cross over. As they cross over, it's a binding point. And then of course the pulleys back here that I put in, and this is the rudder with that Dyneema line in place. And then the latch system they had for their rudder, I replaced that with this, which is just more of the bungee. I got a little aluminum piece of flat bar. I think that's in one of the other videos. The way that these handles are made, they're like split in half, so you can take the top half off and then take the handle off. And the way you're supposed to put the retaining strap for your rudder is you're supposed to put it under one of the screws that anchor this down. Well, when you do that, this top part right here that clips down, it doesn't clip down really well. I mean, it'll stay in place, but it's very easy to come off because it's just plastic clips holding the top half in place. So I got rid of that completely, and then took the piece of aluminum that I made, and I did a loop knot with the bungee that I bought, and then just tied that on the back side. And so now I can slide it wherever I want and lock this in, and it ain't going nowhere, and it holds the rudder exactly straight up and down from, you know, its binding point. If you use their system that they give you and you put that piece under this handle, it kind of pulls it at an angle and makes this rudder pull and bend slightly like that. In the heat of the summer, it'll eventually warp to where it just stays like that all the time. So now it's I've got it to where it's bound straight up and down. So as you can see, I've still got a little warp in mine, but that'll probably cure itself over the hot summer days next year. But it works really good, tight enough. And then of course I replaced all the bungee back here with that same SGT cord. And this was real easy to replace. I just took the old cord off, measured it out the same distance with it not being stretched, and then I shortened it by about 6 inches because I wanted it to be a little bit tighter than the cord that was previously here. So now I got this stuff here. And then I redid the cord back here where the tackle is stored. Redid that with the SGT, and also the thing that holds the seat back down. Redid that, and just did a loop knot underneath, and then came up and used their same clip. You take this clip off, pretty easy. You slide that collar back and then pull on the bungee that they had, and it pops right out. Slide this collar back on your bungee you got, and then slide it back over once you get the bungee fully pressed inside of this hook, and that works out pretty well. So pretty much got all the bungee replaced aside from the ones that hold the paddles, which on this kayak, once you run trolley lines and everything, yeah, your access to this is going to be impossible. But for me, I put that Scotty paddle clip on the other side, and I have the bungee here, and once the paddle's in place and I pick this up and wrap it around, it's going to snap over top of this. So that's my paddle holder, which is pretty good. And then I can show you how this lift system works. So you can see what kind of force. I'm just down beside the kayak. See how easy that goes. A little harder coming up, but still works pretty good. Pulleys are nice and smooth. Sometimes it gets hung like that, but when you're up in the kayak, you got a little bit more leverage. Should be able to operate it a little bit more easily, but works very well. I mean, couldn't ask for better, really. So that's pretty much it and what I've been doing with my kayak in the off season. Hoping for a nice 70-some degree day here in November or December, early December. Maybe I can get out and do a little bit more redfish, fishing, and try and catch me a nice redfish in the colder months. But so far, this is what I got on my kayak and what I've done to it in the last couple weeks. This is OBX Hat Man. Hope y'all catch some fish. Keep the lines tight. Peace out.